What's going on, everybody? This is Sean of Raw Select Music. Today I want to talk about this record right here. This is Kiefer's Superbloom, released on Stone's Throw in 2019. And actually, it's not a full album, rather it's a compilation of two EPs, the A-side being Superbloom and the B-side being the EP Bridges that was actually released at the beginning of this year. Now, surprisingly, going into this project, I wasn't as hyped for it as I've been for his previous two releases. Both were two of my favorite records of their respective years, Kickin' It Alone in 2017 and Happy Sad in 2018. But for some reason, when the Bridges EP was first announced at the beginning of this year, I was sort of lukewarm on the idea of more music from Kiefer in his third year in a row. But over time, once the vinyl was announced, I started becoming a little bit interested and decided to check it out for myself. And now that I've given it quite a few listens, I wanted to share my thoughts and opinions of this record and let you know whether or not I think it's worth checking out. So with that being said, let's talk about this guy. So for those of you who may not know who Kiefer is at this point, he is a beat maker, producer, multi-instrumentalist, and is probably most known as a pianist. Kiefer infuses his hip-hop instrumentals with his improvised jazz piano playing, and he has shown through a lot of his tracks, whether on SoundCloud or in the previously mentioned two records, that he is quite the skilled and talented piano player. His playing has a certain fluidity and lyrical quality to it that actually infuses his solid instrumentals with just a little extra touch that makes them stand out from all the other sort of chill hop beat makers out there. So while I did really enjoy these two projects right here, I did go into this thinking, did I really need another set of Kiefer tracks? When his Bridges EP was announced at the beginning of the year, I was kind of lukewarm on the idea of more music from Kiefer. But once the vinyl finally got announced, I decided to finally give it a listen for myself, and I gotta say, at the end of the day, I'm really glad that I did, because to me, this is Kiefer's best project by far. In terms of the overall sound between the Superbloom EP and the Bridges EP, Kiefer just seems so much more confident, so much more assured in all of the tracks on here. Even when he does sort of experiment and steps slightly out of the bounds of the hip-hop framework that he usually works in, his composition and his overall sense of melody just seems to get better with every single release. And I have to say, overall, the melodies on this record are just so much more catchy and so much more memorable than his previous releases. And that's not to knock the previous two records, because I still love them, but I think he just sounds so much better on this record. On top of that, there's a certain emotive quality to a lot of the tracks on here. It feels like the emotion is so much stronger, specifically on the absolute highlight track and the reason to buy this record, Be Encouraged, backed with its sort of sister outro track, and Encourage Others, are honestly two of the best tracks that Kiefer has ever made. Like I said, super fluid piano playing and his just graceful piano melody lead that takes over the entire track is just so hauntingly beautiful that it actually has become one of my favorite songs of 2019. And to me, that track is the reason to buy this record. But it's not to say that it's the only highlight on here. On the Superbloom EP side of things, Golden, which kicks the record off, is absolutely beautiful. I love the sort of sunny piano melody that holds the thing together. And the fact that Kiefer's been infusing his tracks with other sounds, or really putting his synths much more up front than in previous productions, I think really adds some variety to his music. Even though his piano playing definitely is the most prominent voice on this record, it's still balanced out by a wide variety of different sounds and different colors. Well, I think that the Superbloom half of this record is the stronger of the two EPs, and that's largely due to the quality of tracks like Golden and Be Encouraged and Encourage Others. The Bridges EP is no slouch. I gotta say, I think a friend of mine got into my head about the Bridges EP and dissuaded me from wanting to listen to it. And I'm kind of disappointed in myself that I got influenced by that, because I I actually really like the Bridges EP as well, and think that there are tons of highlight tracks on here. The opening intro track, Journey, is a nice little atmospheric introduction track that leads beautifully into Island. The Orange Crayon track was an early highlight for me. I really like the sort of more prominent drums, which seems to be something that Kiefer's production has been moving towards over time. And the track Sunny on here is easily one of, similarly to Be Encouraged, I think it's one of Kiefer's strongest tracks today, with another really catchy and upbeat melody. And just, it's a song that has gotten stuck in my head multiple times and find myself humming it after every time that I listen to it. So with all the praise that I've lapped onto this record, I have a few little criticisms about it. And one of the things that I will say is, as much as the highlight tracks really stick out on this record to me, some of the other tracks just sort of come and go and don't really leave much impact. There are a few tracks on the Bridges EP that really don't stand out that much to me. And some of the Superbloom tracks, although I do appreciate that Kiefer is sort of branching out into some slightly different territory, some of the tracks just really don't do all that much for me. But even though they don't have that strong of an impact on me, I still find myself enjoying them, and I never find myself skipping them. They just don't really stand out as much as the brilliance of tracks like Sunny or Golden or Be Encouraged and Encourage Others. Those highlight moments are so strong that it makes some of the other tracks on here feel a little bit like throwaways, but ultimately they don't weigh the record down. They don't quite measure up to the extreme highlights on here. Overall, I absolutely love this project. I think this is Kiefer's best record to date. Like I said, there are a few not quite as good moments on here that don't stack up to the really brilliant tracks on here. But overall, I gotta say, Kiefer, once again, with another amazing project, and easily one of my favorite records of 2019. And honestly, if you're gonna start with a Kiefer record, this might be the best one to kick off your Kiefer collection. So that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thanks as always for watching. If you've listened to this record, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. Also, if you want to hear this record for yourself, please head over to my WordPress or Steemit blog, because that's where you can find audio links for this record or any of the records that I talk about on this channel. Also, please make sure you head over to my Mixcloud so you can check out Raw Select Radio, which is basically the audio component of this YouTube channel. There you can hear me play records like the one I talked about in this video, as well as all the other records that I have in my collection that I don't get a chance to talk about. So that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thanks as always for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. So until then, peace out!